Do we all have Valhalla wrong? What truly waits for a Viking beyond the last breath? Is it a golden hall, a warrior's reward, or is it something far darker? A beautiful curse, a fate from which there is no escape? You've probably heard it before, Valhalla, the Viking heaven, a place where every brave warrior goes after death to feast, fight, and live forever in glory. But what if I told you that this vision is a mask, and behind it lies something far more unsettling? Let's strip away the legend and look straight into the shadow beneath. To do that, we need to set aside what we think we know and look at the story through the eyes of the Norse themselves. The real story, found in the ancient texts and the work of the best Norse scholars, is not one of simple reward. Valhalla was not for everyone. It was not a paradise. It was the hall of the chosen and the doomed. In previous episodes, we've spoken of the Norse Soul, a tapestry, not a single thread. We've wandered the 9 realms, grappled with the restless dead, and traced the cycles of chaos and renewal. But in this episode, we'll stand before the very doors of Valhalla, not as tourists, not as conquerors, but as witnesses to a fate as heavy as a sword. Before we step through those doors, let's pause and step into the Norse worldview, a worldview that, in its own way, hints at a hidden order beneath the surface of myth. Imagine the world as the Norse saw it, not a straight line from birth to death, but a circle, a spiral, a web. Every life, every death, every fate interwoven. The afterlife for them was not a single destination, but a landscape of possibilities, each shaped by destiny, by the manner of death, by the will of gods, and the weaving of the Norns. And for some, that destiny was Valhalla, a place that gleams with glory and is the supposed highest destination for all warriors, but is actually built on the bones of endless war. To really understand Valhalla, we have to first understand the Norse map of the afterlife. Forget the neat lines of Christian heaven and hell. The Norse afterlife is a wild, tangled web with many possible destinations, each a node in a greater pattern. Some souls are swept to Valhalla, Odin's Hall of the Slain. Others find themselves in Folkvanger, Freya's field. Many descend to Hell, the cold realm beneath the roots of Yggdrasil. Some are claimed by the sea and taken to the underwater halls of Ran. And some, perhaps the most feared, linger as Draugr, the restless dead, haunting their own graves. Yet, of all these fates, Valhalla is supposedly the most seductive, the greatest reward. But here's the twist. It's actually the most cruel destination, a shining point in the complicated geometry of the Norse afterlife. Why so many destinations? What does this tell us about how the Norse saw the soul and the afterlife? The answer lies in how the Norse understood the soul, not as a single spark, but as a complex system, almost like a set of interlocking equations. The Hugr, your mind and will, the Hamr, your shape and form, the Fylgja, your spirit companion, the Hamingja, your luck, your legacy, the Vörður, your guardian. Each of these could go its own way after death. Some fade, some linger, some, just maybe, return. For those chosen by Odin, however, there is no rest, only the endless call to arms. With this in mind, let's turn our gaze to Valhalla itself. If a warrior makes it there, what is daily existence like in this fabled hall? What does it look like? As described in Carolyn Larrington's translation of the Grimnismal, it's very easy to recognize for those who come to Odin to see how his hall's arranged. Spear shafts the building has for rafters. It's roofed with shields. Mail coats are strewn on the benches. A wolf hangs west of the door, and an eagle hovers above. This is Valhalla, Odin's Hall, the place where the bravest dead gather. But look closer. The shields are battered, the benches stained with old blood, the air thick with the memory of screams. Vafthrudnisfall, stanza 41, also describes life at Valhalla. All the Einherjar in Odin's fields hack each other each day. They choose slaughter and rise from the field, later sit reconciled together. John Lindo summarizes. The emphasis in the sources is twofold: the eternal fighting and revival of the Einherjar, and the special relationship with Odin, which is manifested in part by their feasting endlessly with him and in part by their sharing in his grace. Valhalla is not a place of rest. The Einherjar, the chosen slain, fight and die every day, only to rise again at night. Dawn breaks, and they find their swords already in their hands. The battle begins before their eyes can focus. They clash, they bleed, they fall, only to wake again at dusk. They feast on the boar Særimnir, whose flesh regenerates each night. A horror they must consume anew, and drink from the goat Heidrun. Heidrun the goat stands on the hall of Odin and eats from the branches of Lerad. She fills a vat with bright mead. That drink will never run dry. But their feasting is a brief reprieve before the next day's slaughter. There is no peace, only the endless rehearsal for a war that cannot be won. Their wounds heal, but their spirits do not. Beneath the surface of this endless feast and battle, a shadow lingers. A question: what is Valhalla truly, if not a beautiful prison? The warriors are not granted peace or reunion with loved ones. Instead, they are bound to a cycle of violence. Their deaths never final, their victories always undone by the next dawn. Each morning, the wounds of yesterday are erased, and the struggle begins anew. This is not the blissful afterlife of other faiths. It is a place where the dead are conscripted, not rewarded. Their courage in life becomes their curse in death, for they are chosen not for rest, but for use. Odin gathers his army not to save them, but to spend them in a war that even the gods know they will lose. Scholars interpret this endless cycle as reflecting Norse ideals of courage and readiness for the final battle, rather than a desire for peace or rest. In Children of Ash and Elm 2020, Neil Price writes, Valhalla is not a paradise, but a place of endless battle, a reward that is also a curse, a hall of the honored dead who are also the doomed. So, the glory of Valhalla is shadowed by inevitability. The warriors are not masters of their fate, but pieces on a board, moved by hands greater than their own. Their feasts are the calm before the storm, their laughter echoing in a hall built for doom. In the end, Valhalla is a hall of heroes, yes, but also, as I have been saying, a hall of the doomed. The Norse did not flinch from this darkness. No, they looked it in the eye and called it by name. For them to be chosen was both an honor and a burden, a destiny as heavy as a sword. But you may ask, who gets in and how? Not every warrior, not even every hero. And dying in battle doesn't matter either. And this is where the myth cracks. Only those who die in battle, and only those chosen by Odin, are taken to Valhalla. The rest, no matter how brave, go elsewhere. Even among the mighty fallen, only half are chosen by Odin. The other half go to Freya's field, Folkvanger, just like most of the population, or to hell. Lindau quotes Grimnismal. Folkgang is the ninth, and there Freya rules the choice of seats in the hall. Half the dead she chooses each day, and Odin has half. And it's not even about merit, it's about fate. The Valkyries ride the battlefield choosing the slain. But why this one and not that one? Why now, not later? The answer is hidden in the web of the Norns. Even the chosen have no say in their fate. They are swept up by forces beyond their understanding, their destinies carved by hands that do not tremble. As the Lexdala saga puts it, it is said that men's fates are woven long before they are gone, and none can escape what is destined for them. And in Egil's saga, no man can escape his fate, and all must go where the Norns have decreed. In other words, destiny is not random. It is code, written, carved, and executed. Some might say it is a kind of cosmic equation, balancing chaos and order across the ages. But for the Einherjar, that code is a sentence to endless war. Is Valhalla the Viking heaven? No. This is one of the highest misconceptions. Valhalla is not a universal reward for the good or for the brave. It is not a place where all Vikings hoped to go. It is a selective hall for a select few, chosen for reasons only Odin and the Norns truly know. And for those chosen, the prize is eternal struggle. As the poetic Edda reminds us, all men fear hell, few desire Valhalla. Heaven is a reward for the righteous in Christianity. Valhalla is a hall for the chosen. It is not for the meek, but for those who die in battle and are selected by Odin for his own purposes. In fact, Valhalla is less a reward than a conscription into eternal service. It is not a place for eternal rest or release, but of eternal struggle. So why would Odin build such a place? The answer lies in Ragnarök, the twilight of the gods. It is not just a battle, it is the reset button of the cosmos. In this view, the Einherjar are not just heroes. They are, in a sense, batteries storing violence until the world needs rebooting. They are the fuel for the fire that will cleanse and renew the 9 realms. And when the time comes, they will be spent, utterly and completely. Ask yourself, would you want to go to Valhalla? To fight and die day after day for the war that ends the world? Or is there something deeper here? A lesson about struggle, about cycles, about the necessity of chaos before renewal? Or is it a warning that even the greatest glory can become a trap? Valhalla is not the end. It is a layover. The Einherjar are destined to fight and die again at Ragnarök. The gods themselves will fail. The world will burn, drown, and yes, be reborn. But for the warriors of Valhalla, there is no promise of survival, only the certainty of one last fatal battle. There is, of course, rebirth afterwards. From the Völuspá we read, I see the earth rise a second time from out of the sea, green once more. Waterfalls flow, and eagles fly overhead, hunting for fish among the mountain peaks. This is therefore not a linear story. It is a cycle, a pattern, a code. The Norse saw the world as a web, a system of cycles, patterns, and returns, where nothing is ever truly lost, only transformed. For those in Valhalla, the cycle is a wheel of war, turning endlessly until the final day. Imagine it. You die in battle. You wake in Valhalla. You fight. You feast. You fall. You rise. Is this reward? Or is it another test? The Norse answer? Both. The Einherjar are not at rest. They are being forged, day after day, for the last battle. This is not paradise. It is the heroic life continued beyond death, but stripped of hope for peace. Let's pause and consider some more what this means. What does it mean to live in a world where even the afterlife is a place of struggle, where the highest honor is not rest, but endless preparation for a final cosmic conflict? Remember, the Norse did not fear this fate. They embraced it. For them, meaning was found not in comfort, but in courage, in facing the unknown, in standing ready for the storm. But the price of that courage was eternal unrest. And what about us? What does this ancient myth mean for us today, if anything? We live in a world obsessed with productivity, with constant motion. We glorify the grind, the endless hustle. In a way, are we not trapped in our own Valhalla right now? Chasing promotions, accolades, and legacies that chain us to cycles of burnout? Perhaps, like the Norse, we are caught in a pattern, a fractal dance, repeating at every scale, from the smallest soul to the fate of worlds. The Valhalla myth holds up a mirror. When struggle becomes an end in itself, we become Einherjar, warriors fighting a war with no victory in sight. When Christianity came north, it brought new promises, eternal peace, reunion with God. But the old ways did not simply vanish. Animistic and rebirth traditions survived in folk practice, sometimes blending with, sometimes resisting Christian doctrine. Valhalla lingered, in stories, in dreams, and the stubborn pride of those who would not kneel. Even today, Valhalla is a symbol of courage, of sacrifice, of the eternal return. But beneath the symbol, the shadow remains, a reminder that the greatest glory can also be the greatest burden. Is it a warning? Glory without purpose is damnation? Cycle without renewal is hell? Now let's step back and reflect. Why does Valhalla still capture our imagination? In movies, in shows, in books, everywhere. Why do we, centuries later, still speak its name with awe? Perhaps it's because, deep down, we recognize the truth in the Norse vision. That life is not about escaping struggle, but about meeting it head on. That meaning is forged in the fire of adversity, not in the absence of it. That our stories, like those of the Einherjar, are part of a greater cycle, one that binds us to the past, the future, and to each other. But perhaps, too, we sense the call to look deeper, to see the pattern beneath the myth, the code behind the story, the light behind the legend. Is this perhaps the Norse equivalent of saying life is the journey, not the reward? Valhalla is not simply Viking heaven. It is a mythic code, a story about fate, struggle, and the cycles of existence. For the Norse, the afterlife was not a static reward, but a dynamic process, a stage in the endless unfolding of the cosmos. Valhalla is a hall of heroes, yes, but also a symbol of the eternal return, the necessity of struggle, and the hope and the cost of renewal. In my own words from a previous episode, the Norse saw the world as a web, a system of cycles, patterns, and returns, where nothing is ever truly lost, only transformed. Valhalla is one node in that web, a place where the story continues, and where the code of existence is written in the language of myth. So, the next time you hear the word Valhalla, remember, it is not just a hall of the honored dead, but a symbol of the cycles that shape all things, of struggle, of fate, of renewal, and of the darkness that sometimes lies at the heart of glory. Perhaps, too, it is a reminder that our own stories are woven into this greater pattern, one that stretches from the roots of Yggdrasil to the stars, and includes each of us. Ask yourself, whose war are you fighting? And when the battle is done, will you rise again or break the cycle? Thank you for walking these ancient paths with me. If you want to see more hidden patterns in myth, science, and your own life, share your thoughts below or pass this story on. After all, every cycle needs a new beginning. Maybe yours starts right here. And as you go about your day, remember, the old stories are never truly gone. They live on in the questions we ask, the courage we summon, and the patterns we find in the world around us. Valhalla is not just a place in myth, it is a challenge, a mystery, and an invitation. Will you answer it? Will you seek the pattern behind the myth?